Howdy folks, you ever had a moral dilemma when dealing with your firearms? I just came across a toughie here, and I actually asked some friends, and I kind of knew where I was going to go with it anyway, and I kind of made my choice. I bought a really old gun. It wasn't too expensive. It's a Model 99. It's a Winchester Model 99. Also, I bought it because it's very esoteric. It's strange, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But the dilemma was, do I keep it as is, or do I try to refinish it? I had in my mind the idea that I wanted to try to refinish a gun. And if you see the before pictures, the gun had lost most of its bluing. It was splotchy at best in some areas. In fact, the raw steel could be seen on quite a few, or I'd say, I don't know, maybe 40% of the barrel. In fact, I thought the actual action, the bolt, I thought that it was stainless steel, or supposed to be, and then I looked closer and I was like, wait, some parts of this were blued, and I was like, I think it's just it's seen a lot of action, it's seen a lot of movement, and you'd expect that from this was a working gun from the early 1900s. Model 99, probably designed 99 and put up for production in the early 1900s. And in fact, I have the old stock. It was a non-traditional stock, so apparently sometime it lost its actual stock, and this is what the previous owner had. And you can see the butt plate on this thing has been chewed up pretty horrible. He said this was the original butt plate, but if you look at this thing, it's lost some of its roundedness feature here. I mean, a real butt plate, when you compare this to the actual gun, it'll be a little bit longer, won't be as nicked up and damaged as this one is, but this is an original early 1900s plastic Winchester butt plate. Alright, so let's take a look at that Model 99. And speaking of which, one of the reasons I changed it, was this new stock. I don't know what the shellac they were using on this thing, but whew, it has a funky smell to it. So what I ended up doing is I took the gun, I disassembled it, and I used a lot of Birchwood Casey products, and I was able to bring back the blue, and I found a dealer online who made blanks for the stock. And so I purchased one of these blanks, sanded it down to fit the whole barrel and receiver and all that business. I was able to get it together. I found a replacement butt plate, and I was able to sand down the stock more to meet that up. And then I was able to actually get the whole thing going, and here it is. This is my newest fun little gun. It is a Winchester Model 99, and what do I mean by esoteric? Out of the ordinary. One of the things that kind of struck me with this gun was, I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. It's a James Bond classic, but he kind of runs into a gunsmith in that movie while he's he's following the trail of the golden gun, and he runs into this Portuguese gunsmith named Lazar, and the guy's fashioned a gun that you fire by squeezing the stock. Well, you don't do that with this one, but the same idea is there, because you'll see what's missing. In fact, if we zoom in a bit, it should be quite obvious really fast. There's like no trigger on this thing, right? It's just nice and smooth. By the way, this stock, this is a walnut stock, a black walnut stock, and the guy making the blanks actually was able to make them in gumwood if I wanted to. Now, back in the day, apparently the military was buying up all the walnut for their military rifles, and gumwood was a cheap alternative. I said, you know what, I want something that's going to be a little more durable, so I went with the walnut, and plus it's got a nicer look on the grain of the wood. So, if there's no trigger, how do you fire this thing? Alright, first of all, let's make sure this gun's safe. I think, or I'm pretty sure, I have an empty casing in here. So pop that open. There's that empty casing. So anyway, but look at the nice bluing you get on the wood, not the wood, the barrel here now, and the whole action. I've reblued the bolt and all the little parts. There's and the trigger, which you'll see in a few seconds. Alright, so once again, this is chambered in 22 short and 22 long. Oh, that's the neat thing too. When I bought this, let me see if I have it in my range bag here. I couldn't find any of that ammo. The guy said he would throw some in to sweeten the deal. And you know what's kind of just as neat as an old antique gun? Old antique ammo. So this ain't so old. This is Remington 22 shorts. But then here, I've never even heard of this manufacturer. Hawthorne high-speed 22 shorts. Warning, keep out of reach of children. Sold by Montgomery Ward. Let's see if we... some of you older folks might remember Montgomery Ward. Oh, there we go. They don't exist anymore. And, you know, right now, I'm thinking about department stores, pretty much Walmart's the only one I can think of that really sells handgun ammunition still. Anyway, these are 22 shorts, and then this, I've never seen this before. He had a box and a half of 22 longs. You know, I'm familiar with 22 long rifle. In fact, I probably have some lying around here somewhere. Yeah, I'll reach into the old range bag again. Here's that little Speedy Bees reloader system that I have for my Smith & Wesson 617s. Here's 22 long rifle. If you want to compare this, let's take a look at one of these 22 shorts. So I've never shot that. Look at that. It comes in a little tiny plastic container. Ain't that cute? Yeah, guns and ammo are cute. Well, here's a 22 short compared to 22 long rifle, and it is absolutely short. And let's take a look at the 22 long. Well, that looks almost like a 22 long rifle. It's a little bit shorter. So, well, there you have it. I've never seen 22 long for sale anywhere. I've seen 22 short from time to time. But 22 long was something I thought went the way of the dinosaurs and is pretty much extinct. And actually looking into this gun, some of the later models were chambered in what's called 22 extra long, and I have no idea what that is. I assume it's something like a 22 Magnum or who knows what. Now let's put away these live rounds while we're looking at our gun. Safety first and all that. So I'm going to use this 22 as like a snap cap. So the way this would work, you'd feed in your ammo. It's a single shot rifle. Close your bolt, lock it in place, and then, you know, even though it's locked in, this gun is not actuated. The firing pin is not primed. To prime it, you pull back on that plunger there, and here is how you fire it. I'm going to bring this a little closer here. It's a thumb trigger. There's a release right here. So you get your sights on target, aim, push down with your thumb, and kablamo. That weird? Thumb trigger. You don't use this finger at all. Just, you know, maybe you chopped it off in an old wood cutting accident or something, but, you know, you can just actuate this whole thing with a thumb. Strange. And then there's a little tiny maw that kicks this out. And then you're ready to load the next one. And yanks, and there you go. Strange little feature. I'm not quite sure why they did it that way. There's lots of rumors floating around on the internet. Some of them said that these guns are being exported to Australia and there's a way to get around some sort of weird law that was over there. I mean, right now there's like no real law. The law is like you can't have guns over there, I guess. Some people said that P.T. Barnum with the carnivals, they had a weird law they had to overcome, and this was developed that way. I don't know. None of these I can find are really substantiated. But the gun itself is just fun. I mean, I think it looks great even though it's been refinished. Even though this is non-traditional stock, it's the way the stock was supposed to look. I purchased this online from a guy that had a replicating machine and the original stocks, which these are run off of. A lot of work involved in this, you know, sanding it down to meet the new butt plate. In fact, here, let's take a look at that. Well, here, let's take the gun apart. 1 second. You know what? We need to unscrew this thing. So here we do. The only thing I actually lost when redoing this gun was a tiny C-clamp. Not a C-clamp, but like a C-ring that fits around this lock screw. This lock screw fits inside of a collar that's threaded itself. And the C-ring keeps the lock screw from falling out of that collar. Well, in order to screw the collar into the stock, I had to separate the two, and so I tried popping off that C-ring, and it went flying who knows where. I figure eventually I'll have to replace it. But here we go. Loosen that up a tiny bit. After a bit of usage, I'm sure it'll just be all finger tight and all that. So we should be able to pop this off now. There we go. Look how simple the guns were back then. That's it. That's the gun. We'll look at that in a few seconds. But here, we're about to look at the end plate. Let's hold these two stocks together. And here we go. Let's zoom back out a tiny bit. You can kind of see why I wanted a refurbed one, right? There's no real comparison. I mean, this is nice for historical reasons, and I'll talk about the history of this gun in a second. But, you know, this just makes it pop. And then when you look at the stocks themselves, I mean, you can look at the great grain of wood on this, and then you have just something that's been blackened up and varnished. So, well, let's take a look at this. Where's that snap cap? Here it is. So that was the stock. Let's take a look at this, the gun itself. Pretty simple. To take it apart, you know, I realized that there's just this one spring holding everything together. Let's zoom back in a bit. And if you watch the way this all works, it's really simple. We pop that open, pull back the bolt, slide in our ammo. Come on, ammo. Where are you trying to go in there? There we go. Ammo's in place. Close the bolt. And then you pull this back to cock the firing pin. And then this is all spring-loaded on account of this torsion spring here. So you just pull that down, with your thumb that is, and it fires. When you're ready to shoot, this movement of the bolt will actually move that trigger out, because the trigger at the end point of it has that little maw, that little grip that'll yank the casing out. There it goes. And if you want to look at that a little bit better, let's see. Take this part, you move that down, you can slide the bolt all the way out, pull up on that leaf spring, and you can see, and we'll zoom in on that too. There's that little claw. That's the claw that pulls everything out. And you know what? I tried shooting one or two of the 22 longs, and I'm guessing this gun was almost exclusively 22 shorts, because there must be enough fouling near the front of the barrel that a 22 long will get a little bit jammed in there. So I'm going to have to take a bore brush to this thing. I ran the snakes through it a bit, but I think it's going to need a proper scrubbing. What was kind of neat about this, I mean, first of all, the barrel itself is a doozy. Let's see if we can zoom in on any of this. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. It says thumb trigger model 22 short and long. And where are the dates on this thing? Here we go. Well, one of the patent dates is February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1905. But the first one would be August 29th, 1899. Boy, I sure wish that Winchester was still located here in the States. I think that they moved to Japan or something like that. Anyway, if you're messing around with one of these, if you get they're semi-common in the sense that they're not super rare that you'll never see one. I've seen them twice in the last, I don't know, 7 years on one of the gun boards I belong to here in Virginia. This leaf spring can be pulled out also, just under a little pressure. Come on. There we go. This was kind of neat. This was a bit of a surprise for me. Let's get up really close. Under that leaf spring, I don't know if it's an armorer's mark or what, but there's a tiny little shamrock there, or at least a 3-leaf clover. Hidden, would never have known it was there unless I had taken the gun apart like I did. Now the bolt, I'll be honest, I tried drifting out the pins and everything. Oh, let's get back in focus. And it wasn't having anything to do with it. So I cheated. I grabbed, let's see if I can find it. Guess we're not in luck. I grabbed a large screwdriver and had this thing propped open. and dealt with it that way. That way I was able to get to blue most of the parts that need to be blued, and since it sits upside down anyway, you wouldn't see too much of where the action was, so I wouldn't have to get that fully done. I would love to have taken this thing apart, but I tried. Trust me, I tried. This is different from a model, I think they're called the Model 1900 or the Model 1902, which is very similar to this gun, except it does have a proper trigger. But this has a notch cut out at the end of that there bolt. Let's see if we can zoom in on that again. See that notch? And that's to accommodate this this trigger sliding into it, wherever it slides in. There, so it'd catch on that. Anyway, pretty neat. Now, what's neat about this gun is that I bought it from a retired policeman, and he served in Virginia. In fact, his son is a active policeman serving in the same municipality, I guess, or city, if you want to call it that. But the gun itself also belonged to his grandfather, and his grandfather was a correctional officer at a prison here in Virginia, a prison up in Lorton, Virginia. It's the northern part of Virginia, for those of you not familiar with the state. And his grandfather was a correctional officer in the 1930s at Lorton Prison, and back then, you know, prisoners were more prisoners back then. You know, they had to farm their own crops and raise their own pigs and chickens if they wanted to eat. Well, the guy that sold this to me said, yeah, his grandfather would carry this gun with him while he was at the prison, and if the prisoners wanted to have pork chops that night, then they needed to dispatch one of the pigs, they used this rifle, or the grandfather used this rifle to dispatch the pig for supper that night. Kind of neat. Anyway, that's the Winchester Model 99. Oops, wrong stock. Also known as a thumb trigger. And you know, I was tempted to leave it as is and not try and refinish it like I did. However, after hearing that story about the gun and his grandfather and so much history that this gun's involved with here in Virginia, I figured, you know what, I want to bring it to a condition where I'm going to keep it for a long time. I don't plan on reselling this or trying to make a profit off that. I wanted to keep this as a Virginia gun and just kind of enjoy it. Anyway, enjoy, folks.